I'm delighted to welcome Matthew Twomey, who's head of marketing and product at Anritsu. And Matthew is going to talk about ensuring trust in autonomous networks and specifically the role of AI in service assurance. Matthew, welcome.
Thank you, Annie. Great to be here.
It's good to have you. You're always good value. So let's start maybe with some fundamentals, and maybe you could describe what happens when we go fully autonomous, because I feel sometimes we maybe get caught up in the weeds with that.
Yeah, a fully autonomous network is something that's a work in progress for everybody. But it means that the network can independently perform tasks such as monitoring, diagnosing, resolving issues, optimizing performance, and applying changes, all with minimal human intervention. So you want to take as much of the humans out of it as possible. This is something that this is a process, and I think we'll come on to that in a little bit longer. But the aspect of it to be fully autonomous, it's not just that the network is fully autonomous, though that's true, but you need to be able to see what's happening on the network, and the only way you can see what's happening on the network is to monitor what's happening on the network. So a fully autonomous network isn't just an autonomous network; it's an autonomous network that's being autonomously monitored, so that it can see. So the network itself knows what happens when the network itself takes decisions. And so I suppose I mean, there's obviously some selfish interest here in that we do service assurance, which is monitoring of networks. But the goal here is that for all the customers that we're talking to and who are on this journey from basic automation to more advanced machine learning and predictive analytics and AI improvements in their network. Ultimately, the monitoring of those, it has to come back to understanding what's happening. What this means is how can you trust an autonomous network? Well, the trust can only come from the understanding of I suppose both sides of the autonomous nature we're trying to create. So the network's going to be autonomous, the monitoring is going to be autonomous, and in one way there needs to be an autonomous brain sitting on top of the network and the monitoring. We're coordinating how they work together so that they both understand what's happening, and it's only then that you can have the trust.
Okay, so I think that's really interesting that maybe sometimes we think that monitoring will become less important in an autonomous network environment, but actually, really, it's more important, not less.
Yeah,
Off the ball, so to speak.
Yeah, I genuinely, a number of years ago, thought there might be no more monitoring, that we would find a better way to do these things. And I mean, the technology's changed, and the monitoring in a very funny way has become more difficult with 5GSA, and there's a whole long story there. But VTAPs and finding bespoke data sources from the large network equipment providers is the current way forward for 5GSA. And so, like, this autonomous journey is very caught up in the cloudification journey people are on. It's very caught up with 5GSA. The automation and the autonomous networks will be dependent on this cloudification 5GSA plus journey. And so if you asked me a number of years ago, I kind of go, well, surely someone's going to come up with a better idea than getting down into the weeds of the monitoring and finding out what's happening to the network, to the services, even to the customers and the devices. And you'll be able to figure this out in a more efficient way. But it hasn't been the case. And I'm really open to hearing someone come up with an idea of how we can do this better. It does seem inefficient to make a monitoring digital twin of a hugely complicated network to make sure you know what's happening on the network. It seems a little bit wasteful in a way, but there is no other good ideas in the room.
I
Now,
don't know. I just love the way in this industry we go mad for new technology and then reality kind of sneaks up behind us.
I
And
know, I know.
I
Look,
don't know. We go, oh. It's a bit
yeah,
of a
I had some discussions like at MWC last year. The Anritsu company I'm in, that the test and measurement part of that are very much more ahead of us with regards to technology, and 6G is kind of what they're talking about and looking at now. So ahead of what assurance can do. But like, we get to leverage what they do. So, but in one of the meetings, I mean, I was talking about 6G and going, we need to figure out how this works better. We can't have the same, anonymize or encrypt all the important data and then try and figure out how we monitor it afterwards. We need to be, as an industry, more aware of our need to understand what happens to individuals and devices. Um, I think it's also important to understand that there are levels to the insight that people have, and so and this is a conversation that I've been having for an awful long time. There was in an old company called Arintech, they had this famous marketing campaign where it said "mind the gap," and the gap was between what you know on the network and what's happening to your customer. And this gap, though we're not using that Mind the Gap London Tube marketing campaign anymore, that gap is still there. And there's an interesting kind of philosophical question about, if you take care of the network from a network perspective, how far can you go to, assure your services and your subscriber experiences? And I think you can get quite far. Like, so in a knock, you can see people talk about 90% of what they're doing of their day job is becoming automated, and that there are fewer and maybe even lesser things for them to look at. But the thing is people are still calling care. People are still ringing in
oh
with
yeah.
issues about what's happening, and the introduction of the new technologies, the often talked about push into private networks and corporate networks, and the I mean, we're still talking about network slicing. We've been ready for that for a while. So that's still coming. But each of these things, that what they bring is complexity, and that all of those pieces of complexity, though the network is getting more complex, and that is something that, but it's getting more complex in a maybe in an understandable way. The complexity of the services and what's being offered to subscribers, consumers, corporates, devices, and private networks, network slices. All of that is becoming more complicated, and it's abstracted away from the network, if you like. And so we're back. I know it's like I'm wearing like Red Hat wears the red hat. I'm wearing the monitoring and service assurance hat. That like all the answers for the hammer sees a nail. I just see the answer here is that we need more visibility. We need more insight. We need more ability to monitor. And I think that this is so what happens when you go fully autonomous. When you go fully autonomous, you need to not only have a network that is getting more and more automated where you can hand it off, but hand in glove with that, you need to have the monitoring that sees what's happening, sees what it's doing, and is able to feed back. Like an autonomous system, if an autonomous system makes a change, how does the autonomous system know that the change worked? If the autonomous system is making a change in the network, and then it kind of goes, oh, the network's fine now, but what happens if 200 of your VIPs have had a problem? It
Yeah,
does.
we're going to come on to that, I think, a little bit a bit later when yes. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I know you spend a lot of time speaking to customers and a lot of operators who aren't customers too. So I think maybe you could tell me quite a lot about how operators are looking at the road to autonomy. What's your
Yeah,
experience
yeah.
of what
So
they're saying?
yeah, so an awful lot of the drive to talk to us as a a service assurance, monitoring. I mean, we can talk whatever label, but it is service assurance. Talk to us, a service assurance vendor right now is people are looking at their monitoring infrastructure as they have it. It's a costly exercise, especially for those like high value tier one customers who are looking to ensure that when there is a problem, they have the technical know-how and the capability to fix it at scale across all their customers is a luxury for, for like, you're not going to see that in every country, but in the ones who have money, this is something they do. And so they're looking at these systems, and they're looking at automation, and they're looking at the cloudification journey, and they're looking at 5G SA advanced, and they're going, where will this be in a couple of years? And we have had like a number of our largest customers in Europe ask us about the TM Forum autonomous network levels. I think you asked me, Annie, to share a screen on that. I think
Yeah, I think we talk about this a lot, but I'm not sure how clear. Absolutely, we kind of assume people know, and you should never assume. So if you could share a slide, I think that at this juncture,
Sure.
Matthew, I think it'd be really helpful.
Okay.
So this is the TM Forum framework, which I think, especially the larger operators, but that might not be accurate. Maybe many operators are looking to benchmark and progress against in their road to automated networks. Yes.
Exactly. And so we have had some of our largest customers, like the household name customers, come and ask us where, first of all, what's our take on it, what's our position on it, and second of all, how to get to L4, L5 here by like 2026. It's perhaps worth understanding the levels here. Level 0 is manual. It's where we've always been.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so
Where
you
we
need,
were born, really, wasn't it?
yeah, where you need people to look into problems perhaps as they come. Assisted operation and maintenance is where you'll start to automate on some of the execution around what, so a particular problem happened. Can I fix it in an automated way? I was a product manager for a product called ProAction in 2009, and we used to do that. So but the more you do it, the further you get up, and you might get to L2, which is partial autonomous networks. And so now you're making changes, but you're aware of the impacts to the change. And I think an awful lot of people would say they're there. Level 3 to 5 is where people are looking to go to. And
Yeah.
so you want to make you see a problem, you make the change, you understand the change, you understand the impact of the change, and you will do again. It selects cases, so it's just one by one as these things come in that you will get to fix them, and so you start to automate. I suppose this is automating processes within a NOC or a SOC, and you get to lessen the burden, because some of the things that happen will be just automatically fixed. There's a known process, maybe a known escalation. Sometimes it's an escalation rather than an automated fix, and people will understand how to do those things. I think it's a really good point here to talk about one of the when we see a difference between one operator and the other, and so that sometimes this functions as a gotcha question, but it's not meant to be a gotcha question when we talk to customers or whether they're ready. And so when are you ready to move from L3 to L4? So how do you know you can go to L3 to L4? Well, the automation of the issues as you see them coming in from monitoring, but on the network, and you're looking to fix them. If they go to a team whose responsibility is all the issues on the network, and automation is part of their job, then they will fix the fires that are alight, rather than the automations that will fix the fires tomorrow. There's a human nature aspect here of who's shouting at me now, I'm going to fix them. So a real important thing to do. It's a strategic thing to do. There's an investment. It's an investment in a way, but it's an upskill. It's an understanding your needs, but separating out a different team. A different team with some different skills, but some of the obviously the same telco knowledge now with cloud knowledge, and that team has to be responsible, has to own the automation within the NOC. And then with there, you can start getting that kind of force multiplier. So their job is not to respond to the current fire, the current why people are running around the room shouting. Their job is to understand the context. Their job is to put in place rules and capabilities that can mean that whole groups of these types of problems can be fixed at once. And so then you're moving up into highly autonomous networks. You can see here it's not cases, it's services. We're fixing whole swathes of what can be a problem. There's the analysis and the decision. It will be part of the autonomous. The autonomous system is making the analysis and decision, so it understands. Understands in a way. I'm sure we'll talk about what these AI can understand. The fully autonomous networks. And so if there's any treatise to anything I'm saying here, is you'll see here down at the very bottom. So this is full autonomous networks, that the intent and the experience is understood. And so like we circle neatly back, this brings us neatly back to the why monitoring. And you kind of go, well, again, you're fixing networks fine, you're fixing services fine, but you're fixing, subscriber, consumer, corporate, device experience. And how can you run an autonomous network and fix those things without understanding them? And the answer is just plainly that you can't. You won't be able to. There's a quote I've heard: you can't monetize what you can't see. And so if you don't see it, you can't offer a differentiated service to a corporate if you don't know what their service was. You can tell them you've opened up the network to give them better service, but like, how do you show them? If you're offering that to, we're having a bunch of private network conversations these days. It's all very early stage, and perhaps waiting for the standards to catch up and waiting for the technology to catch up and the devices to catch up. But if you're offering them differentiated service on a large scale network, how do they know they're getting it, and why would they pay more? And so you need, so this is for the business case, but for the autonomous network, it has to be the case that you understand down at the lowest level of granularity what's happening to be able to make these autonomous decisions.
So we have a bit of a disagreement, Matthew, about the origin of this, but the question is, and talking about monitoring and visibility and understanding, is, who watches the watchers?
Yes, who guards the guards? I think there's an old Latin phrase.
Yes, I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah. So what was that phrase again, Annie?
Who guards the guards?
Oh, but do you remember the Latin?
That Star Trek kind of.
Oh yeah. So I know.
Adapted.
I'm sorry for everybody for introducing a nerdy concept, but there is this phrase has stuck with me all the way through my service assurance career, and there's a Star Trek episode called "Who Watches the Watchers," and there's a bunch of watchers in a society, and something happens to them, and so who's watching them? And I think why this matters in this context is obviously the suppliers of the network. So your Ericssons, your Nokias, your Huawei's, your Mavenir's, and everybody else are very good at understanding what's happening on their network at a network level, and they are making strides with, using AI and in their approach on understanding at a deeper level and being able to fix more things than they could. However, they are not going down to what I would say that customer level. They are not going down to the intent and experience. They're not monitoring down at that level, and so this isn't because they should. They are busy supplying a network with an awful lot of capability, and this is to monitor that level is to create a monitoring digital twin of the network that they've just spent all their money developing is a large task, and it's a specialized task, and it's not something that we talk to them that they're our partners, so they're not looking at it like that. They're not looking at it kind of going, oh, we're missing out on this whole aspect. At least they're not looking at it like that now. they might change in a few years when we become fully autonomous and they need this for every customer. I mentioned like the way things changed. We now get data from the likes of Ericsson and Nokia, and we know where they are in their journey to 5GSA and cloudification. We know maybe some of the limitations as well. So we know that they're not doing this themselves because like we're getting it as it happens. It's driven from customer needs. What's the customer need? The first customer need here is that they need a like for like visibility on what they've always had. And what's like for like visibility is the ability to see everything that happened to customers on their network from full group, all customers down to individuals. And that's it's a big ask, but it's not something they're doing. So it's something we do, and this is why we have our niche. I think so there in this metaphor, which I'm probably stretching to breaking point, let's be honest, they're watching the network. And so who's watching them? And that's us. We're watching them. And do you need someone to watch the people who supply the network, who are watching the network? You do, because how do you know? Like, so if your business is dependent on those big, very, I mean, very, they're brilliant companies, but big companies, are you going to just trust that when they say their network is working well and that there's complaints into care that they said it's working well, so it must be fine. You won't. No large operator is just going to trust a single company's perspective on how the network is running, and then in an extension of that, no large operator, whose business depends on it, is going to trust them to run an autonomous network. They're going to need.
Also, stuff happens all the time.
Yeah,
Exceptions are normal, which
yeah.
is, I mean, that's the thing. So stuff happens that could not have been foreseen because of a collection or a sequence of circumstance, events that could not have been foreseen, from somebody putting a backhoe through a fiber in who knows where, and blah, 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 blah. So it's a big, complex machine that's being run here. So
It is. I've had an ongoing friendly feud with a colleague. It's great. Just it's a philosophical, intellectual battle we've been having, and his perspective is that with the cloudification of telco networks, we will just move to the likes of the Amazon cloud, the Google cloud, with the orchestration, the scaling up, scaling down. The services in telco are not so complicated that this can't be done. And I'm suggesting that no, that's not the case, and we will not just become, and maybe this is to our detriment, let's be fair, but it is the way it is. We are such a complicated bunch of capability and legacy requirements and legislative legal requirements that there isn't any way to just make sure that this just becomes a new Netflix
a
host.
subsection of clouds.
No, it's just not possible. And I mean, look, back when I thought our jobs might all go away here in assurance, we had lots of engagements with the cloud providers, and we're still obviously having some engagements with them, but that there will just be a cloud version of a duplicate on the network, monitoring all that the network does to bring it back together in the cloud. It's expensive. It's expensive from a compute storage, from all the perspectives from cloud. So it isn't something that's happening.
And despite softwareization, there are always going to be huge physical elements.
Yeah,
the backhoe nightmare,
when you're monitoring the user plane of everybody in the country, you start hitting into some of the cloud limitations of, well, how do you do that sensibly? And obviously, I mean, that you can, and we will, and we do, and it'll become more popular to do, just parts of the network sampling and clever ways of not analyzing everything. Other things we will do will be taking other types of data sources to just speed or enrich data. But this is all kind of part of the future. So an autonomous network will need maybe not just one source of data, will need other sources of data to be able to make better decisions. It is true that in most cases, if you have related data and it's even different data, you get better outputs from it. I had that interesting one where like with ChatGPT, if and this is the autonomous network sitting on top of the autonomous networks anyway. For ChatGPT, one ChatGPT can give you a good output. Two ChatGPTs working together can give you a better output. And I know even in OpenAI, they can have like 10 ChatGPTs working together to try and get the best output. And I think that will be another one of the things about autonomous networks. It'll be not just the probing and the assurance data, it'll be other data, crowdsourced data, other applications will come in to create a whole framework of insight that'll help you understand, will help the autonomous network understand that the changes it's making are impacting in the right way, not impacting in the right way. And so this complexity is not going away. It seems like we're unable to make things simpler in
Not
telco.
human nature, otherwise we'd still be in caves. Usually we take the questions at the end of a session, Matthew, but Petri has asked a good one about cloud. So just before we move on, maybe we should, or you should try and address that. And Petri asks, if you move parts of your network to cloud, do you still need monitoring in and to the cloud? I would have said yes, but you're the expert, not me.
Yeah. Well, yes. So somewhat of some kind of an expert, maybe. Yeah, it's a good one. It's like going back to the old thing. It's in cloud, so are we not just monitoring cloud, and can't we use the cloud monitoring that others use to assure services? And in the hierarchy I had of where I had like network, services and individuals where you need more effort to get more insight. Underneath the network in this one is cloud. And so the cloud has to work for the network to work for the services and the individuals. So when you move everything to cloud, what you need is you actually need to chain all of that data in a service assurance perspective to understand not only what's happening to customer services in the network, but also which part of the cloud might be affecting all of those things. So it doesn't the monitoring of cloud is not super complicated in a way. It's really well understood, and Amazon and Google and the rest of them have done great jobs on making that like open source and easy to do, but it doesn't fix the complexity and the telco issue that sits right above it, that's still not going away.
So we talked about a lot of needs of operators and needs of customers, and how about the needs of AI, and I think we don't often look through that end of the binoculars.
Yeah, I know. It's a really good one, and it's something I do tend to talk about quite a bit as well. The needs of AI. Let's maybe do a small. I don't want anybody to send me emails about this definition of AI, but what is AI? AI is like, advanced use of computer sciencey stuff, so algorithms and predictive algorithms and large language models to fix problems, let's say. And some of those categories, it matters about the data. And so let me give you one that we've been doing for a long time, where it's like a real-time anomaly detection. And with a real-time anomaly detection, that's real time. We're looking at it really quickly. It's using, machine learning, and a machine learning algorithm that gives you an ability to look at things like 10,000 time series data slices, if you like, and is able to detect anomalies in them, whereas a human would never be able to do that. So it's being augmented. The capabilities are augmented by the AI or the ML in this case. ML is a subset of AI. So that you can you really, so you need to know what you're trying to do and when you need the data. In this case, we're looking at real-time anomalies. Getting that data fast is really important. If you're looking at prediction, prediction is going to work in real time, but prediction is a different thing in that you need to train the model. It needs to have like a well understood set or superset of issues that it's focusing on. And then when it sees the pattern in real time, it goes, oh, I know about that. This is one of those things I've learned. This matches this to a high enough level that I'm able to take this action. And so there's a confidence level in whether or not this is a problem or not. And then you can go and take a predictive action, but you will also need to have another human or another machine looking at those predictive actions to see whether or not the model that you've tuned and trained is working as it should. And so the timeliness of the anomaly detection is we're getting it now and acting now. Timeliness of prediction is we need a lot of data to train a model, but we lack now. And then you have the likes, and this is perhaps what an awful lot of people think about these days, and who doesn't use ChatGPT around GenAI. And GenAI are the large language models, inference machines, and I think they're excellent. But how do they help telcos? Well, they're not going to help them in real time, really. They're not going to be able to make changes to the network in real time because it won't come back fast enough and it won't necessarily be accurate enough. So what can the LLMs do? Well, the LLMs can help understanding. And so how we're looking at it is that the LLMs can come in and be an assist to the current users in the NOC/SOC. So I'm a user in the NOC/SOC, let's imagine, and it's an autonomous network. Not autonomous in that no humans ever, but like something happened and it didn't quite go as planned. So like, what's my LLM going to do? And kind of go, right, you're going to be looking at the network. The autonomous network made a decision. The autonomous monitoring saw it, but the output didn't. Like people still lost service. So how does a human come in and figure it out? Well, the LLM can come in and kind of go, right, here's the flow of the data. Here are the actions of the automated autonomous loops within the mechanism, and here's the outcome. And a human will still maybe be needed so it might need the LLM to actually understand what's happening and go poll and find out the information. But the LLM will need to tell the human, because we're getting at levels of complexity, all within that. The cloud, the cloud instances can move, shift, shut off. And so how do you follow all this? And I think this is where the LLMs come in. Where we are with that right now, just because we'll be doing this at MWC, is we do have LLMs pointing at a subset of like close to real-time time series data. But what it will be is like, I'm a network operations guy. I have a problem. Hey, can you tell me about the problem? This is the problem. It happened at this time. Has this problem ever happened before? It has. We saw this problem like a couple of weeks ago. That sounds like and how did it get fixed? And kind of, oh, here's the fix. The fix was applied in this way. Can I apply that fix again? Oh, you can. Here's how you do. Here's how you apply the fix. And then the LLM being a kind of guide here, where we're not at is like, right, I have the fix. I've applied it. Can I automate the fix? And you kind of go, okay, yeah, well, here's how you would automate it. This is like for the future. And then you kind of go, right, I've automated the fix. Do you know about all the other automated fixes I made? And the LLM goes, of course I do. And then you kind of go, right, it's a year, it's 2 years later, and you kind of go, right, I have 900 automated fixes, LLM. Can you understand in the context of this new thing I need to fix? Can we automate this fix? Does it fit into a category or a group of fixes we already do? And can you also just check to make sure that none of those 900 fixes are redundant or are not needed now or causing any damage, or any unintended consequences, let's say. And so the LLM as a helper is so ChatGPT like help, I think, is something that's going to become more and more important, from just like throwing up the right graph, being able to ask questions. It's so complicated. We're going to the people in the NOC/SOCs and sure maybe ourselves will need this level of help to understand what's going on.
So I don't want to preempt our final session of today, which is with Harrison Long, who's the Group Chief Strategy Officer at and we're going to talk about large language models there. But I was just going to say, do you think we're already sliding possibly into using LLM when we mean any language model?
what any language model, as in?
Well, a smaller one. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah,
large language model tends to mean, or it started off meaning something really specific. It meant a foundation model by the likes of OpenAI or whoever, but somebody who's, a standalone foundation model. But I think it's now slid in confusingly into any language model for any AI, and I think it is, and I was interested this morning in the FT that Nandan Nilekani, who is one of the founders of Emphasis, talking about how he thinks there's too much emphasis on the large language models and too much
yeah,
being carried away with that. And, yeah, that was the first exciting pioneering part of the deal. But hello, like we said before, reality has a habit of sneaking up behind you.
yeah. So the large language models from ChatGPT can be general purpose, and I know from seeing it across Europe that, excuse me, a bunch of the bigger operators are looking at having their own language models. So
Yeah,
taking the best of, whether it's Google, Amazon, or ChatGPT, taking the best of their model, maybe tailoring it and coaxing it to work for them on their data, their insights, being telco specific.
yeah,
And so in my head, all of those are the large language model kind of category, but tailored. Like the reason they might want to tailor these things, the reason they might want control, is that you don't want any of this information sometimes going back. Like, there may be lots of, especially in Europe, privacy concerns about
yeah.
anything going outside the walled garden.
But
So
also presumably commercial IP too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, how are we running it? The large language models, or the large models, the language models may know this. So I think this is it's a good point. It isn't a case of, I mean, you wouldn't turn on ChatGPT in the middle of DTAG in Germany and give it
Possibly
exposure to
not.
everything. But
Mm.
yeah, I
Okay.
think it's becoming easier to build. I know our team are working on building their own large language models so that they can be embedded. Or I know so they can be embedded, and that nothing goes outside um, outside the isolated systems. And it's something, so it's something we're looking at. But yeah, how many of those
I guess
models
you're
do you
going to
need
have to
then?
look at this whole landscape and all these variations. And it seems to me that there's going to be quite a lot because it's all going to play into service assurance, which is, your specialism. At,
Yeah, I think I think the interesting part is, like, so where it always seems you need to it's nearly a human need to try and get, especially when we mention AI, that AI will just sit on top of everything, that there is an overarching AI, and the autonomous network seems to lead into that. I know we had an L6 there, fully autonomous
yeah,
network. I think, or an L5. I think there's room for an L6 because, like, no human intervention at all. So and the AI sitting at the top of the whole lot of it, orchestrating the monitoring in a smart way, orchestrating the network in a smart way, seeing customers' devices as they come on, making sure the network fits for them, being able to request expansions that are forward looking. And we imagine that this is like a super AI sitting on top of it. When we get there, when we get there, let's hope we're all retired. Um,
well,
because
I think I can definitely say I probably will be. So we've just got 5 minutes, I'm sorry to say, left, only 5 minutes. What about this kind of idea, maybe in the industry, of AI-driven networks versus customer experience? To me, it's a bit of a daft way of looking at things because there's nothing more fundamental to customer experience than the way the network performs. But
yeah, I think I suppose this is the underlying tension between the
mm,
easiest things to do now are to fix your network based on what the network's saying. And we're back to the mind the gap. The customer experiences and device experience, and is really alongside the automation road, the journey to autonomous networks. The other real, like, no one's buying monitoring. No one cares about monitoring. They want the end product, which is automation and excellence in customer experience. And so the AI driven networks, like if we go back to the TM forum, the TM forum autonomous network levels, I mean, when you just fix your network based on AI, you will have impacts to services and customer experience, but not enough. And so this tension of when do you bring the customer experience in, when is it suitable to bring in, I think is an important question, and something that operators themselves need to think about. Let me give you. There was another real interesting moment at one of our large customer gatherings. So we meet in Munich for Oktoberfest. It's coincidental, and
I'm sure.
and a question was asked of the room, and so like we have lots of big customers in Europe, and there was a bunch of them all around, and everybody is interested in autonomous networks, and the role, let's say it's automation. Every autonomous networks is the goal, and to do that, you need to embed. You need to have your team, as I mentioned, but then you also need to embed the automation processes into everything you do. And to do that, you need to have the automation in the labs. So when you have your like lab network, and you're testing, and you're trialing, and you're checking the technology to make sure everything works, you need to have it in the labs there, so that when you go live, you're not fixing it for the first time. You're not understanding for the first time via a live network. And so a simple question was put, and you could put this to the whole audience as well, is, are you putting automation into your labs? And if your answer is no, then you're not you're not getting to level 5 fully autonomous networks in 2026. You're just not. Like it means you're doing it after the fact. You're fixing after the problem, whereas you need to be looking to put the automation and the fixes as part of your process, your whole process, like labs to live, and have a team, and then that's more of a proactive, first foot forward. Let's get ahead of the issues. And I mean, yeah, the service assurance hat comes on again. You go like, oh, so you need service assurance in a lab, and you kind of go, you do, because like, let's say make some changes, and let's see how service assurance sees them. Let's see the loop closing within a lab, because you need to test it on the small scale before you test it on the large scale.
Well, I was going to say, yes, you have to try it out small first before you can scale it. And I know scaling doesn't always work. Some is small, which is a whole different conversation. But yeah, you need to try it out first, surely. Not try part of it out and then try and add it on in a commercial network.
It's
I mean, that's nuts, right?
Can't be an afterthought. It needs to be I mean, the cloudification is going to change everybody's world, as it happens. I mean, I think 2025 is where all the people who sat on the fence for all those 5GSA kind of expansions are moving from lab to live. I think 2025 is it, and that comes with cloudification, and that comes with automation, and it will automatically come with service assurance. And so it's kind of an exciting time for us in a way. But it's an exciting time for all of us. It's a real transformation to the industry. I mean, the automation and customer experience and linked to autonomous networks are all that I'm hearing from customers about what they're looking for in the next coming years.
Matthew, it's been a great pleasure as always. Thank you very much indeed. That was wonderful.
Thanks, Annie. That's great. I had another camera.